Chapter 5. Caden's Point of View. I stood outside her house as she was talking to the policeman. How dare they question her? How had Jenna been okay with that situation? She just seemed to trust the cops enough to let them question her alone, which seemed a little crazy to me. True, this whole situation had kind of been her fault in a twisted way, but she was mine, and I was still proving that to her. She would realize there wasn't another option. It was only me. I loved her more than anything. She would want for nothing. I wasn't going to let anyone harm her, and I knew exactly what guys like that wanted. She'd just looked too goddamn sexy in those clothes, and without me, she was fair. Game to any man. I had just needed to protect what was mine. I walked around to the side of the house, to where her window was. I knew every door, and every window into this house like the back of my hand. I mean, how else was I supposed to watch her? Her room was on the second floor, but it was surrounded by trees which were very easy. To climb, I needed to talk to her, to hear her voice addressing me and not just talking to her. Friends, I'd left her a note today, warning her, and watched in the shadows as she read it. She'd listened, because what happened tonight was all due to another man. She knew the rules. She'd backed away from that guy. I just had to tell everyone else that she was taken. I wanted to play with her, take her mind off of what she'd seen tonight. I watched as she took off her clothes and got into the shower, her creamy skin and perfect body disappearing from my sight as the glass fogged up from the stream created by the hot water. I opened the window and crawled inside. I shook my head. She really should be keeping that window locked so men like me couldn't climb in and watch her. I smiled as I leaned against the counter, watching her silhouette, hearing her singing. Problem quietly to herself as she closed her eyes to rinse out the shampoo in her hair. Her way of dealing with anything was music, and I didn't matter if she was playing it so loud she couldn't think of singing quietly to herself. I shouldn't have had her witness what had happened tonight. My poor Bella. I took a piece of paper out of my pocket and scribbled my phone number on it. She was a brave girl, and knowing her, I knew she would either call or text me. This way, I wouldn't have to waste paper. I was making the fucking earth a happier place. Knowing my perfect Bella, I knew she could appreciate I made the effort to not waste paper for her. I took the clean clothes she had on the counter and breathed in their smell. They smelled of jasmine and vanilla, exactly like one of her perfumes. Fuck, I loved that smell. I put them in the bag I had with me and smiled to myself one more time as I watched. Her, she would definitely get these back at some point. But right now I needed to get her. Attention more than normal. Get her mind off the dance. My beautiful Bella. I climbed out the window and left it open. I wanted her to know I had been here, that I had been watching her. I wanted her to know how much power I had in her life. I walked back to my house, which was only a block away. I had gotten it to be close to. Her, and I had a couple others, but none which such a vantage point to her house. The streets were dark and gloomy, with only the dull glow of the street lights that flickered. Every now and then. I opened the door to my house, my eyes scanning every inch of the sill. Room instantly, my instincts kicking in. A while back, it wasn't uncommon to come back to. My house and several men angry and ready to end my life. They were never very good at their job. I sighed. Sometimes I missed seeing the look in their eyes when I held the knife close to their skin, the shape blade drawing droplets of blood. They knew it was over. They always knew, but they begged anyway, offering me cars, boats, girlfriends, anything in exchange for their miserable little lives. I had tried to move away from that life, my focus on Bella. I couldn't put her in any danger unless it was absolutely necessary, like tonight. I waited, my eyes never leaving my phone. I could have texted her, true, but God, the anticipation felt good. I wanted her to crave me. I wanted her to think about me as she fell asleep, wondering if I was watching. I needed her to text me. I needed her to want me. I sat at my computer, not focusing on any particular task, just waiting and staring blankly at the screen, until around midnight my phone pinged. I smiled in satisfaction, the release of endorphins as I won, as I got what I wanted. It was her. Who are you? Should you tell her? I wanted to, but also without her knowing any details. I was perfect. I was a stranger without the flaws she could spot so easily. As soon as she knew the way my thoughts worked, she would figure out how fucked up I was. The only one you can trust, I replied back. I don't know you, leave me alone. I knew she would be shy at first, but she would come around eventually. You are mine, my love. I'm unable to leave you alone. Please just tell me your name. I smiled. I liked when she begged. Caden, it's Caden, my beautiful Bella.
Bella's point of view. After turning his note over and over in my hands, I finally texted him. I didn't care that it was dangerous, and I didn't care what happened, but I needed this cryptic back and forth banter to stop. What sort of game was he playing? After our weird texting conversation, I knew something about him I didn't know before. His name is Caden. I went to sleep with more questions than ever before, but one stayed on my mind longer than the others. What would he look like? Why was he so overly obsessed with me? Why me? I sighed and turned off the light, letting sleep take me. Waking up the next morning was torture. I was tired and felt like curling up and crying after last night. I managed to get dressed and get downstairs so I could get my coffee before school, but I just really fucking didn't want to go. I grabbed my phone and called Alice, who I knew would be down to skip school with me. Hey girlie, what's up? She asked, the music playing in the background nearly drowning out her voice. You want to go to the beach today, man? I can't handle going to school. I could almost imagine her raising an eyebrow in surprise. Really? The good girl Bella skipping school? So scandalous. I rolled my eyes. Pick me up in 20. She laughed. Got it. I grabbed the sweatshirt I kept from him, since it was the most comfortable, and a leftover piece of pizza before leaving the house. I sat down in Alice's car. She drive a bright blue Jeep, and honestly, no other car fit her so well. I forgot all about my fucking stalker, the judgmental people at school, and the homework I wasn't going to do today, and just rolled down the window and let the wind whip my hair behind me. The road to the beach was surrounded by green hills covered in rocks and small trees. which eventually let out to fields of dead grass. Alice swerved in front of another driver as she turned into the parking lot. "Fucking loser," she muttered. It wasn't a hot day, but it was warm, just warm enough to lie there and stay out of the water. I pulled the hoodie over my head, covering my black bikini top and just obscuring the legs. I loved the way the sun felt on my skin, and I needed to badly to be warm right now. Somewhere during the day I fell asleep, the sun beating down on my back as I began to fall asleep, the noises of the ocean echoing around me. I squinted my eyes, jolted awake by the sudden lack of warmth, but the sun remained in the sky, no trees obscuring its beams. I pushed myself onto my elbows, my tired eyes finally being able to focus. 2 boot prints were made in the sand by my head, the prints leading away up the path towards the car park. Without my knowledge, he'd been here, watching me sleep. Despite the sunshine, I shivered and looked around for Alice, but her towel was empty, her phone and shoes gone. She'd probably run to grab something from the car, but I wasn't sure. I needed her back here. I honestly didn't know if he would hurt her. I didn't want to risk it. I stood up, looking around for any sign of her. "Alice!" I yelled, walking up the path. The beach we were at had a steep path down to the sand. The cars parked above by the road. The hill turned into cliffs further down, moving higher and higher above the ocean. It was a secluded cove that you could only find if you were looking for it. It was perfect if you wanted privacy, bad if you had a stalker you needed to run from. The sun disappeared behind a hill as I started walking further away, the cars appearing slowly as I came to the road. I saw the blue Jeep parked farthest away, but didn't see her. The rain recently had definitely done some damage to the beach. As I continuing walking, I see the cliff become steeler and steeler, eventually turning to more rocky gravel. Sand seemed to fall over my feet as a quick gust of wind swept by me. I reached the Jeep. I peered inside to see if she was there, although I didn't know why she would be. She wasn't. Fuck. Where had she gone? I turned around and began heading back, looking over the vast expanse of the ocean, the glittering blue and green water moving slowing in and out with the tide. I felt the ground loosen, the well-trod path giving way under my weight. I slipped and bent a slide, my hands grasping at the dirt. I stopped moving, my foot hanging over the edge, too afraid TP move in case I began to slip again. Fuck! Alice! My voice hurt from shouting her name hours loudly, but no one appeared. Not even another beachgoer coming back to claim their car. I turned my head the other direction and saw him. A man, a tall man, dressed in black jeans. A black hoodie with a black mask pulled over the lower half of his face. Only his dark, stormy eyes were visible, and they seemed to pierce straight through me. He reached out his hand, pulling me up back into the path, just as the dirt gave way and the land I'd been on moments before went tumbling into the sea. He pulled me up, wrapping his arms firmly around my waist. I could feel his heart beating, feel the muscles underneath his sweatshirt. I stared at his eyes, his light-toned skin making them appear darker, his dark eyelashes framing them perfectly. "You weren't supposed to fall like that, love," he whispered the words, a low, drawling voice softly in my ear, his lips bushing against my skin. I felt the goosebumps and tried to ignore them, focusing instead. Not that had appeared in my stomach. Fear and anticipation, but another feeling too. I wasn't crazy, I did have a stalker. I mean, I knew he existed, but here he was, holding me. I wanted to cry, to thrash against him until I was free and run far away, so he'd never be able to find me again. He put a hand under my chin and lifted my head up to look at him. Be more careful next time. I don't want you going and hurting yourself, especially if I'm watching. I opened my mouth to speak, but faster than I could blink. He brought a cloth to my mouth. My eyes grew wide as I was forced to inhale, black spots appearing in my vision as I lost consciousness. I jolted upright, looking around frantically. I was back where I had started, laying on my towel in the sun with Alice asleep next to me. What happened? I asked her, shaking her slightly to wake her up. She groaned and rolled over. I just fell asleep, Belle. I needed to pee too. I went looking for the bathroom. I only got back like 20 minutes ago. You were out cold. I'd been unconscious. He'd fucking knocked me out and brought me back down here. I rummaged through my bag and found my phone, a new text appearing as soon as I picked it up. Be careful, my love. Drive back safe. I felt the cold fall over again, my heart beating faster, the anxiety building in my chest. Fuck.